Right, let's talk about tariffs. Specifically, Donald Trump's tariffs. These economic tools are supposedly making America great again, except they feel more like a mallet, a very large, indiscriminate mallet, one that's being swung wildly in a china shop, or more accurately in a Walmart, an Apple store, and pretty much anywhere you buy anything. These aren't just abstract economic policies, folks. These are decisions that ripple out, affecting the price of your bananas, your Nutella, and even your job. The whole idea, as it's often sold, is to protect American industries, to bring jobs back, to stick it to countries that are, allegedly, ripping America off. Noble goals, perhaps, if you squint really hard and ignore the rather large orange elephant in the room. But the execution? Oh, the execution has been something else entirely. It's been a roller coaster of announcements, threats, reversals, and then more announcements. It's less a coherent strategy, and more like a toddler mashing buttons on a global trade console. And we're all strapped in, wondering if we're going to puke before the ride finally, mercifully, ends. Consider this, just yesterday, May 30th, 2025, at a rally in Pennsylvania. Because where else would you announce major economic policy shifts? Trump declared that tariffs on steel imports would double, from an already hefty 25% to a whopping 50%. 50%. That's not a gentle nudge. That's a full-blown economic shove. And steel, as you might imagine, goes into a lot of things. Now, you might be thinking surely there are checks and balances, surely one person can't just unilaterally decide to slap massive taxes on everything imported. And you'd be right, sort of. The American legal system, bless its cotton socks, has been trying to grapple with this. Recently, on May 29, 2025, the U.S. Court of International Trade actually ruled that Trump had overstepped his authority. They argued, quite reasonably, that Congress, not the president, holds the primary power to set tariffs. A sensible decision, you might think, a victory for due process. Hold that thought, because in the grand tradition of legal cliffhangers, an appeals court then swooped in. They've temporarily reinstated Trump's tariffs. Yes, the very same tariffs the other court just said were a bit dodgy, so they're back on, for now. The administration is, of course, appealing to the Supreme Court because why not drag this out even further? They have until June 9th, 2025 to submit their briefings. So, we're in a delightful state of legal limbo. It's like a game of constitutional ping pong, but with billions of dollars and the global economy as the ball. Absolutely thrilling for legal scholars, terrifying for everyone else. Let's talk about Walmart, the behemoth of Bentonville, the place where you can buy everything from a garden gnome to a gallon of milk, usually at prices that make your wallet sigh with relief. Well, that relief might be short-lived thanks to our friend the tariff. President Trump quite specifically demanded that Walmart absorb the costs of these new import taxes. Just, eat it, because apparently multi-billion-dollar corporations have infinite capacity to just soak up extra expenses without it affecting anyone. Spoiler, they don't, and they won't. True to form, Walmart announced in May 2025 that prices were indeed going up, especially on products from China, which, as you can imagine, is quite a lot of what Walmart sells. CEO Doug McMillon, bless him, stated that Walmart would to keep prices low. They'd give it the old college try. But, and this is the crucial bit, they simply couldn't absorb all the tariff pressure. So by summer, your weekly shop at Walmart is likely to cost you more. Happy holidays. This isn't just about fancy gadgets. Tariffs on goods from countries like Costa Rica, Peru, and Colombia are already affecting food prices. Bananas, avocados, coffee, even roses. Your breakfast and your romantic gestures are now tariff casualties. Now let's turn our attention to Apple, the tech giant, the purveyor of sleek, expensive gadgets that many of us can't live without, or at least feel like we can't. They too are caught in the tariff crossfire. President Trump has dangled the threat of a 25% duty on Apple products if the company doesn't magically move all its manufacturing to the US. Just like that, pick up your entire global supply chain developed over decades and plonk it down in America. Easy peasy. Except, it's monumentally difficult, incredibly expensive, and logistically a nightmare. In response to this pressure, and the general tariff unpleasantness, Apple has been making some moves. They've started shifting some of their production to India. This isn't a wholesale abandonment of China, not yet anyway, but it's a clear sign that they're trying to diversify, to find ways to mitigate the impact of these tariffs. It's a strategic sidestep, an attempt to navigate a trade war that shows no sign of abating. Because when the President of the United States is publicly musing about slapping a 25% tax on your flagship product, you tend to pay attention, and you tend to look for an escape hatch. The CNET Tariff Tracker Index highlights the precarious situation for smartphones. Section 5. Target's tightrope walk, dodging duties, dreading price hikes. Then there's Target, the slightly more upmarket cousin of Walmart, the place you go when you want cheap chic and a surprisingly good grocery selection. Target's CEO, Brian Cornell, has been quite vocal about the potential impact of these tariffs. He's warned of massive potential costs, which in CEO speak translates to this is going to hurt, and it's probably going to hurt you, the customer. However, Cornell has also stated that actual price hikes would be a very last resort. A noble sentiment, one that suggests they'll try every trick in the book before passing those costs on. But last resort doesn't mean never. It means they're exploring all other options first. Things like negotiating harder with suppliers, finding alternative sourcing countries if possible, maybe even absorbing some of the costs themselves, squeezing their own profit margins. But there's a limit to how much any company can absorb before something has to give. And that something is usually the price tag you see on the shelf. Target, like Walmart, relies on a perception of value. Section 6. Ross's Ruckus, discount dreams dashed by duties. And what about Ross Dress for Less, the haven for bargain hunters, the place where the thrill of the find is half the fun? Their entire business model revolves around offering branded goods at significantly discounted prices. This model is heavily reliant on being able to source those goods cheaply. Often this means opportunistic buys, closeouts, and yes, imports. So when tariffs come knocking, threatening to increase the cost of those imported goods, it strikes at the very heart of Ross's operations. It's a direct challenge to their ability to offer those dress for less prices. Like other retailers, Ross is likely to see price hikes on imported goods. There's only so much less you can offer when your own costs are going up. This directly affects their pricing strategies. They can't just absorb massive tariff costs indefinitely without it impacting the deals they can offer. And if the deals aren't as good, then the allure of Ross diminishes. Shoppers who flock there for incredible bargains might start to think twice if the discounts aren't as deep as they used to be. It's a fundamental threat to their value proposition. The challenge for Ross and similar off-price retailers is that their customers are particularly price-sensitive. People shop at Ross because they expect significant savings. If those savings evaporate due to tariff-inflated prices, customer loyalty could wane. Section 7. The Domino Effect. How tariffs rattle your wallet and Wall Street. These tariffs aren't just isolated incidents affecting a few big companies. Oh no. They create a domino effect that ripples through the entire economy. It starts with the importer paying more, then the retailer, and ultimately, it lands squarely in your lap, the consumer. Your wallet feels the pinch. CNET has been tracking the prices of key products, and the results are illuminating, if a bit depressing. For instance, an Xbox Series X, which used to be around $500, has jumped to $600. That's £100, folks. Partly due to tariffs, partly due to market conditions. But tariffs are a key ingredient in that bitter price hike pie. It's not just big-ticket electronics. Apple AirPods Pro 2? Prices have risen closer to their $249 list price, meaning fewer discounts. Even something as mundane as printer ink, specifically HP 962 CMY printer ink, has seen a jump from $72 to $80. And coffee? Starbucks ground coffee prices are likely to rise because the US imports most of its coffee. So, your morning caffeine fix, your gaming console, your ability to print cat memes, all potentially more expensive thanks to these trade policies. Some items like Duracell batteries or an Anker power bank have remained steady for now, but the trend is worrying. Section 8. China in the crosshairs, more trade wars and tech tensions. A significant portion of this tariff turmoil, as you've probably gathered, revolves around China. The US-China trade relationship has been, to put it mildly, a bit frosty. President Trump recently took to Truth Social, his platform of choice for important diplomatic announcements, to accuse China of violating its trade deal with the US Trade Representative Jameson Greer echoed this, claiming China was slow rolling their compliance. This isn't just rhetoric, it's the soundtrack to an escalating economic conflict, and when these two giants clash, the rest of the world tends to feel the tremors. The Trump administration isn't just stopping at general tariffs either. They're planning to expand tech restrictions on China. This means targeting subsidiaries of already sanctioned firms like Huawei and Yangtze Memory Technologies. The goal seems to be to kneecap China's technological ambitions, particularly in sensitive areas like semiconductors and critical mineral exports. This is likely to heighten tensions considerably. It's less a trade negotiation and more like a technological Cold War, fought with export controls and blacklists instead of spies and missiles. Though arguably, the economic fallout can be just as damaging. This focus on China has profound implications for companies like Apple, which rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing. But it also affects a vast array of other industries. The U.S. goods trade deficit did narrow sharply in April 2025, contracting by 46% to $87.6 billion. On the surface, that might sound like good news. Section 9. The Tariff Tightrope. What's next in this economic circus? So, where does all this leave us? Perched precariously on a tariff tightrope, it seems. With legal challenges ongoing and new tariffs announced, the future is murky. Businesses struggle, consumers face higher prices, and uncertainty looms. It's like being on a ship in a storm with a captain who keeps changing course. Not exactly reassuring. There are faint glimmers of potential change. Resolving trade policy could allow for lower interest rates. The Fed says sorting out trade would make their job easier. Your policies are causing economic headaches. The White House insists it's making progress. Economic advisor Kevin Hassett claims 3 new trade deals are nearly completed. It's hard to reconcile this optimistic picture with daily tariff threats. Are we witnessing a masterclass in strategy or a chaotic reality TV episode? The jury is still out. The path forward remains unclear. Will the courts strike down these tariffs for good?